planet's diverse, thriving ecosystems may seem like permanent fixtures, but they're actually vulnerable to collapse. Jungles can become deserts, and reefs can become lifeless rocks, even without cataclysmic events like volcanoes and asteroids. What makes one ecosystem strong and another weak in the face of change? The answer, to a large extent, is biodiversity. Biodiversity is built out of three intertwined features: ecosystem diversity, species diversity, and genetic diversity. The more intertwining there is between these features, the denser and more resilient the weave becomes. Take the Amazon rainforest, one of the most biodiverse regions on Earth due to its complex ecosystems, huge mix of species, and the genetic variety within those species. Here are tangled liana vines, which crawl up from the forest floor to the canopy, intertwining with treetops and growing thick wooded stems that support these towering trees. Helped along by the vines, trees provide the seeds, fruits, and leaves to herbivores such as the tapir and the agouti, which disperse their seeds throughout the forest so they can grow. Leftovers are consumed by the millions of insects that decompose and recycle nutrients to create rich soil. The rainforest is a huge system filled with many smaller systems like this, each packed with interconnected species. Every link provides stability to the next, strengthening biodiversity's weave. That weave is further reinforced by the genetic diversity within individual species, which allows them to cope with changes. Species that lack genetic diversity due to isolation or low population numbers are much more vulnerable to fluctuations caused by climate change, disease, or habitat fragmentation. Whenever a species disappears because of its weakened gene pool, a knot is untied and parts of the net disintegrate. So, what if we were to remove one species from the rainforest? Would the system fall apart? Probably not. The volume of species, their genetic diversity, and the complexity of the ecosystems form such rich biodiversity in this forest that one species gap in the weave won't cause it to unravel. The forest can stay resilient and recover from change. But that's not true in every case. In some environments, taking away just one important component can undermine the entire system. Take coral reefs, for instance. Many organisms in a reef are dependent on the coral. It provides key microhabitats, shelter, and breeding grounds for thousands of species of fish, crustaceans, and mollusks. Corals also form interdependent relationships with fungi and bacteria. The coral itself is a loom that allows the tangled net of biodiversity to be woven. That makes coral a keystone organism, one that many others depend on for their survival. So what happens when destructive fishing practices, pollution, and ocean acidification weaken coral or even kill it altogether? Exactly what you might think. The loss of this keystone species leaves its dependents at a loss too, threatening the entire fabric of the reef. Ecosystem, species, and genetic diversity together form the complex tangled weave of biodiversity that is vital for the survival of organisms on Earth. We humans are woven into this biodiversity too. When just a few strands are lost, our own well-being is threatened. Cut too many links, and we risk unraveling it all. What the future brings is unpredictable, but biodiversity can give us an insurance policy, Earth's own safety net, to safeguard our survival.
Tahukah anda, agenda penghijauan Malaysia akan dilaksanakan mulai tahun 2021? menerusi kempen penanaman 100 juta pokok. Pokok? Maksudnya semua jenis pokok. Tumbuhan berkayu yang mempunyai akar, batang, dahan dan daun. Bersama kita jayakan kempen penanaman 100 juta pokok.
Terima kasih kerana menghijaukan Malaysia.
Pokok kita, kehidupan kita. Marilah bersama-sama menjayakan program penghijauan Malaysia.
Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to all participants. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome all participants to our webinar, Landscape Conservation Approach for Wildlife in Malaysia, on this beautiful Friday evening. This wonderful event is hosted by Forest Research Institute Malaysia, FRIM, and co-organized by the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, FRIM, and Malaysia Biodiversity Information System, MyBIS. My name is Sarah and I'll be moderating today's session. For your information, an e-cert of participation is provided for today's webinar after submitting the survey form. Therefore, the organizers would like to remind the audience to fill in the survey form and submit it at the end of this webinar. Only those who successfully submit the survey form will receive the certificate of participation. Apart from that, we'd also like to announce that this webinar will also include a quiz after the talk. We hope you look forward to it as we're offering attractive prizes. Now, we'd like to remind the audience regarding some house rules of this webinar. Let us watch the video that has been kindly prepared by the organizers. With that, we hope each and every participant can follow the house rules so that today's webinar can be enjoyable for everyone. To those who have just joined in, Assalamualaikum, a very good evening and welcome to the webinar, Important Landscape Conservation Approach for Wildlife in Malaysia. We have with us today our respected presenter, Encik Muhammad Shafiz bin Azman, a decorated zoologist from Forest Research Institute Malaysia, FRIM. Allow me to share a little bit regarding our presenter's profile. Encik Muhammad Shafiz is FRIM's very own head of zoology branch under the Forest Biodiversity Division. He is a graduate from UNIMAS, University Malaysia Sarawak, with a Bachelor of Science degree with honours in Animal Resource Science and Management. His scope of research in landscape ecology is mostly related to vertebrates. He has also led several research projects and published numerous peer-reviewed journals, international and national proceedings, articles, and other forms of publications related to biodiversity and conservation. Encik Shafiz is actively involved in policies concerning conservation biodiversity, such as the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, CITES, Central Forest Fine, CFS, Environmentally Sensitive Areas, ESA, and Heart of Borneo. Before I pass on the mic to our presenter, questions from the floor are highly encouraged, and you may do so through the chat box. The organizers and I will select questions to be directed to our presenter during the Q&A session later. So without further ado, I'll pass the screen to our respected presenter, Encik Muhammad Shafiz bin Azman, FRIM's very own research officer under the Forest Biodiversity Division. Encik Shafiz, the floor is all yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can everyone hear me? Crystal? Okay. Thank you, Sarah, for the kind introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antas samiul alim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'd. Can everyone see the slide, the screen? Because I can see some blue squares on the screen. Cannot see the whole slide. Okay. Today I'm gonna share with you, with everyone, our research basically related to landscape conservation approach for wildlife in Malaysia. Together, these slides were prepared with my colleague, Ms. Farajana and Nur Hazwani we are from Zoology Branch, Forest Biodiversity Division, FRIM. Next, please. Before? Okay. So this is a Malaysia's heritage, where you can see, this information is very important. As we mentioned in one of the video, Malaysia is one of the 12 megadiverse countries in the world. Therefore, it is important for us to understand what we have in our own backyard. So as to date, there are at least 307 species of mammals, 785 species of birds, and more than 700 species of herpetofauna. So all this information, basically, you can look into Malaysia Biological Information System, MyBIS, where actually these a good portal that actually coordinate all the biodiversity information that to be disseminated to all. So therefore, everyone feel free to look into this website, as you can get updated information related to biodiversity. Next. So this is some of the beautiful species of wildlife that we have in Malaysia. On top left, you can see same species but differ between sexes. So the left one is actually banded kingfisher for female. However, on the next to it is the male for banded kingfisher. And then we have for fossil, lesser false vampire, and then we have the short-nosed fruit bat, and then moon rat also, one of the our very own species of moon rat. And then we have horned agamid. We have Amalot rautensis, the mangrove pit viper. We have brown spiny rat, and then we have this black giant squirrel, and then we have our own spectacle leaf langer, Trachypithecus obscurus, and then our very own bearded boar, bearded pig, Sus barbatus, and the late Sumatran rhino. This is what we have next. Okay, so Malaysia, I mean, based on a common vision of biodiversity, biodiversity provide a lot of services, provisioning services, regulating services, cultural services, and supporting services. These are the important component why we need to safeguard, why we need to protect our biodiversity. We want to have enough food, we want to have enough enough water, timber, genetic resources especially, and all this information and all these services we require every day without notice. So some people thought that what biodiversity used for, and then benefiting us. So basically these are the services. Some people tend to ignore. They need clean water, they need clear air or fresh air, cleaner air. There was a time when we have a lot of haze. People cannot go out before MCO. So now we will be kept in house. So try to appreciate whatever what we have. Next. So in another point of related to biodiversity, how we can value biodiversity. So basically, in my point of view, biodiversity cannot be valued, is valueless, because it provides everything. So as we mentioned also in one of the video, genetic species and ecosystem diversity. So all this actually, however, we need to understand in order to protect all these species, we have to give some value in order for us to provide efforts in order to conserve and protect these. So it can be divided into two: use value or non-use value, and this also can be referred to 5. So direct use value, indirect use value, option value, bequest value, and also existence value. Next. So, according to National Policy on Biological Diversity, Malaysia is currently adopting 2 types of conservation approach. Number 1, probably based on species, and that's where you can see National Tiger Conservation Action Plan has been prepared, and National Elephant Conservation Action Plan. However, on other hand, there is also conservation based on landscape or ecosystem approach, which actually really talking about protected areas and also environmentally sensitive areas. Next. So protected area is defined as a clearly defined geographical space, recognized, dedicated and managed through legal or other effective means to achieve the long-term conservation of nature with associated ecosystem services and cultural values. This is a clear definition talking about protected area, and later this protected area can be divided into 6 management categories. Next, please. So there are 6 management categories. On the right side are the description related to this management category. We have category 1A, strict nature reserve, category 1B, wilderness area, national park, national monument of feature, habitat species management area, protected landscape or seascape, and last but not least, protected with sustainable use. So all this is clearly defined in the document that I mentioned from the previous slide. Next, please. Therefore, some people might thought that is PA enough for us, but actually it's not, because why? It is biased in selecting location for this PA. For example, it's easier to allocate low value or inhospitable areas such as highlands or mountains to become a PA. However, most studies mention the most diverse or that consists species richness, the highest species richness of biodiversity actually in the lowland. That's where actually we need to focus more than just PA, especially at the lowland. And we know that some species are restricted. The dispersal are restricted to certain elevation, like the mountain species. But however, in order for us to understand, to have better representative for each species and better genetic resources, we need to consider all these, the number of species and also number of female individual actually. And then number two, it is almost impossible to include an entire ecosystem in a PA, definitely. And also not all systems are represented in PA established. So in Malaysia, several plans and policies stipulate that critical and representative habitat should be protected, but wetlands and lowland restricted forests are yet insufficiently covered. However, I think this is some observation that's been made. I'm sure Forestry Department and other agencies, whether in Sabah or Sarawak, they are actually looking into these matters to maintain more than 50% of forest area in Malaysia. And number four, several important design criteria for protected area system are not yet in place. Therefore, outside PA, in National Policy on Biodiversity, Target 6 specifically mentioned by 2025, at least 20% of terrestrial area and inland waters and 10% of coastal and marine areas are covered through a representative system of protected areas and other effective area-based conservation measures. This is actually the plus point for our conservation, our protected areas. Next, please. There are at least 5 main issues that related to wildlife and also its habitat. Number 1, land use change. Number 2, pollution. Number 3, human-wildlife conflict, poaching, and also invasive alien species. Next. This paper was published back in 1983, where it mentioned about the distribution and number of Sumatran rhino in Endau-Perhompian region of Peninsular Malaysia. This paper clearly mentioned that Endau-Perhompian previously contained the largest contiguous Sumatran rhino population in Malaysia, where about 20 to 25 individuals, compared to Taman Negara or even Sungai Dusun. And then in this paper also did mention the survival are poor, since some of the habitat that soon will be destroyed, and threat of poaching is very high. And in this paper did mention this is the only reproductively viable population of rhinos remaining in the country. Therefore, in this paper already clearly stated that we need to do something to combat, to address these issues in order for this population to survive. However, next please. In 2019, we lost our Sumatran rhino. So this is the last Sumatran rhino named Iman, was died in Sabah. Next. And of course, we don't want to have to our Malayan tiger to face the same thing. Previously, back in 1950s, it is estimated that about 33,000 individual of wild tiger in Malaysia. However, now the current status is more like less than 200 individual of wild tiger in Malaysia. Next. These are some of the newspaper cutting talk about how a human-tiger conflict happen and cause the decline number of wild tiger. On the top left, you can see if everyone remember, this is one of the viral issue talk about awang besar back in Terengganu, and then down there how some of livestock been eaten, be attacked by tiger, and therefore congratulations to Peritan that actually managed to conduct this the first national tiger survey. Next. With all this point also, currently we already prepared the National Action Plan on Invasive Alien Species, where it mentioned there are 3 goals with 11 targets, together with 27 activities. And goal number 1 specifically talk about improved understanding and public awareness about IAS. And target 1 talk about how we can increase research in all aspects of IAS management, including the pathway, ecological impact, and also how we can develop technologies to contain and control IAS. Next. This is the new policy that being launched this year, 2021, Malaysia Forestry Policy, where it talks where it addressed at least there are 6 main challenges, issues related to forestry. Number 1, deforestation. Number 2, forest degradation. Number 3, loss of forest biodiversity. Number 4, climate change, poaching, and forest fire. Next. Therefore, in order to combat these issues, target number 2 clearly mentioned about forest biodiversity conservation. With this, there are 2 strategies. Strategy number 1 talks about the preservation and conservation of forest biodiversity. And for the action plan, there are some of the plans, some of the actions that need to be carried out, especially to identify and assess status of ecosystem, species, and also flora and fauna species. And then at the same time, strategy number 2, we need to increase our knowledge by documenting the scientific information on forest biodiversity. And therefore, numerous inventories need to be conducted in order for us to strengthen our database and documentation of forest biodiversity. With this information, it can be disseminated via publication, discuss, or even webinars like this, in order for relevant stakeholders, public, to understand what we have in our own backyard. From there, we can integrate all this information into better forest management, and that's where we can establish and strengthen our capacity and also expert in forest biodiversity. Next. So national policy biodiversity, it talks about there are 5 goals, and it does mention about species conservation. Target 9 specifically talks about species conservation for the threatened and endangered species. However, and there are 3 targets specifically talk about landscape conservation. This is where the how to say, the punca kuasa, why we need to conserve, why we need to have landscape conservation. And target 8, today I'm going to talk about target 8 specifically, where important terrestrial and marine corridors identified, restored, and protected. So main indicator 8.1 talks about how about 10 main corridors under CFS initiative are fully implemented. Therefore, the talk after this more focus on CFS. This is where our initiative more active participation by forest biodiversity and FRIM in CFS initiative. Next. This is the 3rd National Physical Plan. It also talks about why we need to strengthen, to maintain and protect and enhance the natural resources, food sources and heritage, and together related to CFS. Next. Central Forest Spine is actually the main aim of Central Forest Spine is actually to create ecological corridors in order to connect fragmented forests in Peninsular Malaysia that involve 8 major states in Peninsular Malaysia, Kedah, Perak, Selangor, Negeri Sembilan, Johor, Pahang, Kelantan, and Terengganu. And to date, there are 37 corridors that have been identified, 17 primary linkages, and 20 secondary linkages. These initiatives currently under review, and soon we will identify. Soon we will know the latest information on the Central Forest Spine initiative. The first, this initiative was first launched back in 2010. Next. There are 4 forest complexes in CFS connecting Titi Wangsa Bintang Nakawan Range from north, and then Taman Negara Timur Range. South is Pahang, Lake Chini, Lake Bera, and towards the south, Endau Rompin Park, Kelawang Wildlife Reserve. Next. There are 37 ecological corridors, as been mentioned, at least 17 primary linkages of primary linkages that has been identified, and next, and 20 secondary linkages have been identified. Of all these primary linkages are used to connect all these fragmented forests. Next. 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 This is actually where it started during the 11 Malaysia plan, where FRIM together with other agencies like Perhilitan, State Forestry Department, DID, and many other agencies sitting together, try to identify, try to understand where actually those areas, those corridors that need to be further enhanced. From there, from this series of discussion and meetings, we have identified at least 11 corridors that need to be studied, especially on small vertebrates, which is what FRIM is doing for the next 4 years, starting from 2017. Next, please. The objective of this study basically to identify and document all small vertebrates, which is mammal, avifauna, reptiles, and amphibian at these 11 selected corridors. And from there, we will assess the conservation status of these small vertebrates, and later on to suggest action related to conservation of small vertebrates population at respective corridor. Next. In this map, these are the 11 corridors that were focused during the 11 Malaysia Plan study. So Perhilitan will do research on large mammals in particular, and other related research on large mammal, especially like koala and human-wildlife conflict, and also some of the roadkills. However, for FRIM, these are the areas, these are the corridors, and that comprise about 21 sites from 19 forest reserves that have been sampled, that have been inventory. Next. As a result, there are, at least for mammals, The total number of species from this 11 corridor, there are about 180 species. And from this, two critically endangered species that were identified. And then basically, when we talk about findings here, we encompass previous study from that area. That's where the number become big. And some of the, during our survey, we observed some of the, not only small vertebrates information, sometimes we saw path marks and whatnot. And that's where some of the large mammal also we recorded during that. That's why critically endangered here represents some of the tiger footprints that we have identified from this area. And then endangered species and vulnerable species, 16 species and 21 species respectively. And then 44 species, 46 species of totally protected species under the Wildlife Conservation Act, and also 24 species of protected species of mammals. And then from this 11 corridor, Kedah, SL7, that is connecting Pedu, Chebar, Bukit Sayong, recorded the highest number of species with 127 species. And of this, Vespertilionidae with recorded 24 species, and Suridae, the non-volant or non-flying small mammal, recorded the highest number with 16 species. For avifauna, for birds, in total, there are 403 species of birds has been recorded. And then of this, one critically endangered, and two endangered species, and 8 vulnerable species. And of this, Johor, actually CFS2 SPL1, that connecting Lenggor Mersing, is actually the highest species, number of species of avifauna recorded here with 328 species. And the highest family recorded here is Muscicapidae, or the flycatchers. Next. As for amphibia, there are a total of 87 species recorded out of 242. And Kedah recorded, again, Kedah SL7 recorded the highest number with 58 species. And the highest family is Diploglosidae. However, for reptiles, out of 567 species, we managed to recorded 128 species, with also Kedah the most the highest species with 71 species. And Colubridae, a family of snake, recorded the highest number with recorded with 40 species. Next. As you can see, this is some of the graphs showing the distribution number of species of vertebrates from at least 9 corridors that we have sampled. We have to add another 2 more. Due to need some verification, we need to have so far we have analyzed for these 9. Therefore, as I mentioned, CFS1 SL7 is actually the highest number of species recorded with about 410 species, followed by PL3 CFS2, which is in Johor, and followed by CFS1 PL7. This is actually from Terengganu, Tembat. Next. One of the common species, common bat species that have been captured is, of course, the lesser short-nosed fruit bat, or the main pollinator for our durian tree. Next. Another interesting species that we have captured is the pencil-tailed tree shrew. This is another species that is actually not many people know about this species, where you can see there's like a feather tail tree shrew recorded also in one of the CFS site. Next. Another interesting species that we have identified also this silver-breasted broadbill that is actually nesting, and also some of the this is more or less like a indicator species for a good forest, and also mountain or hill forest. Next. Another common raptor, crested serpent eagle, another interesting species that can mostly identified of all corridors. This is one of the common raptors that we have identified. Next. Another interesting species also that represent Malaysia is the horned frog. And last but not least, next is the flying frog. The Wallace flying frog, Rhocophorus nigropalmatus. Next, please. With this information, it is important for us as researchers to disseminate this information. So this information will publish either in many forms, as we mentioned earlier. So this is some of the examples that we publish in one of the newsletter, and I think it's being well distributed at libraries, museum, and whatnot. And then next, please. These are some of the information from the site based on the proceeding that we publish. Next. These are some of the information that have been published in journals, scientific journals, Malaysian Forester, and also Journal of Tropical Forest Science related to the corridors. Next. This is some of the information related to species that have been published from international conference that we attended and get it published. Next. As you can see, based on the data and information that have been gathered from the publication that have been published together, this information is better translated into an action plan or policy related. Therefore, with this information, we engage, we assist for State Forestry Department, Plan Malaysia Department, and also other respective agency to come up with a better policy or management plan for the forest, for the areas, especially related to CFS. Next. Because this is ecosystem approach, is actually we need to have decision making and policy action that cross multiple geographic scale and multiple ecological dimension. And that's where the very nature of the issue is actually we need to have the land use occurs in local places and social economic benefit that actually cause ecological degradation. And that's where this National Committee on CFS that is actually headed by Forestry Department and KeTSA, we try to understand from various angles of information. So therefore, our little contribution on small vertebrates information together with Pelitan on the large mammal, with the hotspots, some of them also relating about land use that occurs in this information. we try to integrate all this information into better decision making and bridging all this information. Next. Because this is the approach, this is approach that based on application of appropriate scientific methodologies that focus on level of biological organization that encompass essential structure, process, function, interaction among organism and the environment. Next. These are the photos that were taken during our pre-inventory together with State Forestry or District Forestry Office in order to understand on the ground and the area, the situation on the ground for those forest reserve that we are going to survey. Next. These are also together with Kelantan, Terengganu, and Kedah team together with this. And this is also related to, if you see on the left side, together with Samdabi plantation, because some of the forest reserve is actually connecting some of the plantation that actually important for us to understand the biological diversity in that area and crossing some of the forest reserve. And on the right side, our discussion with the previous Kedah forestry officers, and on the top right is actually the pre-survey before we go for inventory with Negeri Sembilan forestry office. Next. Based on this also, I'm sure I was made to understand some of the audience also from Sabah and whatnot. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about HOB much because I'm not very actively involved with the HOB. However, we did participated into a Heart of Borneo workshop, and then some of the papers also talk about based on our involvement with EAC and also some of the local university workshops. Next. With this also, we organize a series of talk. This is 2000, on the left side is 2018. When we organized the biodiversity talk that focusing on mammals, and on the right side is 2019 when we talk about biodiversity talk that talk about avifauna that's been organized by FRIM. Next. These are the, as I mentioned, this is where we assist Selangor State Forestry Department to come out the management plan specifically for Selangor. Although Selangor there is only one ecological corridor, however, this is the most important corridor that is actually bridging Perak on the top, on the northern side, and Negeri Sembilan on the southern side. So this is actually the key for one of the key corridors in Peninsular Malaysia. Next. This is the Selangor CFS Selangor Management Plan that were published, that were prepared by Selangor State Forestry Department 2020 until 2029. So next. Not only that, this also based on this information, based on the research that we carried out, we also share this information to the public. On the left side is basically our talk related to wildlife with University Malaya student. And then on the right side is one of the ICCFS project component that talk about one of the protocol for biodiversity monitoring for ICCFS project, together with other respective agencies like Perhutanan and JPSM for all ranges at the state level. Next. With this information as well, we, as I mentioned earlier, the CFS master plan is under review. Therefore, we are actually sit together with all agencies to provide technical views, technical assistance in order to understand, to better revise the CFS master plan. And it is hopefully this year or next year, the new CFS master plan in better way will be published. Next. This is the earlier draft of CFSMP. There will be 2 volumes. Currently, they are actually, the consultant is actually together with FRIM Malaysia is finalizing the draft, and hopefully it will come up very soon. Next. So for landscape conservation approach, I talked a lot on CFS. However, there are 2 more actually approaches that focus on landscape conservation. As I mentioned, environmentally sensitive area, where environmentally sensitive area can be ranked as rank 1, 2, and 3. And Plan Malaysia has come up with the GPP, stands for Garis Panduan or guidelines for ESA. This guideline used in order for town planners, researchers to better understand the restriction required for ESA and some of the areas, the action that need to be taken, and the classification of ESA per se. And then on top of that, the umbrella actually for conservation landscape approach is key biodiversity area, or known as KBA. Under this KBA, there are 8 teams that actually were provided, guidelines were provided by IUCN. Later, I will touch briefly about ESA and KBA. Next.
Sorry, Encik Shafiz, I don't mean to cut you, but you have 5 more minutes left.
Sure. All right. Next. This is the guideline for ESA rank 1, 2, and 3, where you can see rank 1, definitely no development, agriculture or logging shall be permitted, and focus on research and education. And rank number 2, no development or agriculture. However, sustainable logging and low impact nature tourism may be permitted. And rank number 3, controlled development, whereby the type and intensity of development shall be strictly controlled. This is what has been regulated. Next. So one of the guideline in A9 talks about wildlife habitat, where ESA rank 1 mentioned about wildlife reserve, sanctuaries, national and state parks, turtle landing areas, ecological linkages, and buffer zones. Next, please. So these are the papers that were published talking about our work in ESA areas, and we hope this information can be applied, can be implemented at least at the state level or other agencies. Next. As I mentioned about key biodiversity areas, There are 8 themes. Number 1 is Alliance for Zero Extinction, AZE, Important Bird and Biodiversity Areas, IBA, Important Fungus Areas, IFA, Important Plant Area, IPA, Prime Butterfly Areas, PBA, Ramsar Site, Special Protection Areas, and Ecological and Biological Significant Areas. Of all these are the umbrella approach for landscape conservation. Therefore, actually, CFS, EAC is actually beneath this initiative that can fit into one of these function. Next, there are actually 11 criteria to identify KBA that can be divided into five pillars. A, threatened biodiversity. B, geographically restricted biodiversity. Ecological integrity, biological processes, and irreplaceability through quantitative analysis. However, in order for us to develop or identify one of the, KBA site, one of the criteria is suffice, and but in order for this criteria to be chosen, there are few thresholds that need to be fulfilled in order for us to choose that criterion. Next. I think that's about CFS, EAC, and also KBA. I'm sure there's a lot more I can talk to. However, I would like to acknowledge Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, KeTSA, for approving this proposal, and also funding us for this research. Forestry Department of Peninsular Malaysia for permitting us, for allowing us, and then accepting our invitation also, and then co-join with us for the research, and definitely for Department of Wildlife and National Park Piritan for permitting us to do research on wildlife, State Forestry Department, District Forestry Officers, State Piritan Officers, FRIM especially, for giving us the opportunity to carry out this research, and definitely Malaysia Biodiversity Information System, MyBIS, for organizing and for us to share what we have today. Next, I would like to say, I think this is as a Muslim, we must understand that why we do this, and in the Quran already mentioned where biodiversity stated, basically in Surah Al-Fatih, verse 27, Muftalifan alwanuha. This is meaning fruits of varying colors. So in this sense, these fruits of varying colors is actually the biodiversity. And you can see ad-dawab here. What dawab is moving creatures. And we are the ulama, the one that have knowledge that actually can help us, help everyone to conserve our biodiversity, especially wildlife in Malaysia. I think after this is my last slide. Next, please. Yeah, I would like to thank also to my team, and of course the late Dr. Lim Buliat, who passed I think a year ago, to be for our good mentor and assisting us, providing technical advice, always guide us to do research and to publish. I think that's all from me. Thank you. Pass over to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Encik Shafiz, for such a lovely and knowledgeable share. I believe it gave a lot of insight to the audience regarding the policies that are involved in the landscape conservation of Malaysia. Now, we have some interesting questions from the chat box that I'd like to direct you.
Yeah, I can see.
Let's kick off our Q&A session with the first question, right, which is, what teeth and enforcement does Dasar Perhutanan Malaysia have at state level, considering land matters are controlled by the states?
Oh, okay. First and foremost, I dare not touch about policy because it is related to the state, and also, it's related to the state. However, we must understand policy being drafted for us to guide, especially the stakeholders, the state governments, to drive them to this. In order for this policy to be better implemented, I think numerous engagement to the respective agency departments for us to understand to be implemented, because at last we need to understand which one come first, which one we want, development or conservation. And this is the very fine line that we need to understand. If we focus on development only, we will lose our biodiversity. If we just conserve everything, we might not have development as what we have right now. So in my point of view, we need to have the sustainable development. And that's where SDG 15, Life on Land, very much talk about how we try to find the balance between conservation and development. And policy is one of the channel, one of the way in order for us to maintain our between conservation and development.
Okay, thank you for your point of view. And we'll move on to the other question.
Yeah.
So the Malaysia Forest Policy 2021 targets to disseminate information on forest biodiversity to relevant stakeholders. How relevant are stakeholders defined? Does this include public awareness? What about open data?
Yeah. Oh, that's very true, Sarah. Thanks for the question. Actually, this information you can, that's where MyBIS is being set up. This is one of the good platform, good portal that you can assess the current status of our biodiversity. And on top of that, also there are numerous platforms. I think Forestry Department also keep on publishing proceedings, information, and FRIM also keep on publishing research pamphlet related or to forestry and biodiversity. As mentioned, the latest information related to plant rate list also been published this year, and this information can be accessed via Facebook FRIM, and you can get it for free. So I think everyone is relevant because everyone is a Malaysian citizen. We need to know, we need to understand what we have in our backyard and what are the contributions that we can do. So on top of that, I think MNS also played a role like promoting My Garden Bird initiative, where don't need to be an expert ornithologist for you to be a citizen scientist. You can actually, there are about 10-11 species of garden bird around your back house. Even during MCO, you just just open the window and then try to use binocular or even your own eyes. You can spot some of the species, and then this is actually a very good census that been carried annually from there and throughout the world. So these are the relevant, and we are the relevant stakeholders, not only from the government side, not from the NGO, school, teachers, and everyone. So actually, that's where everyone have to play their role.
Yes, and if you all haven't already explored MyBIS, I urge that you guys do so.
Yes, yes, indeed, Sarah.
Yeah, we do. And now moving on to the other question, we have a curious participant.
All right.
He's asking, which factor do you think has the biggest effect to your findings? Whether it was the study period, size of corridor, maybe the distance to large forest blocks, the season, or maybe other factors that you can share?
Thank you very much. I can sense he's a very technical person. However, I try to answer that because it is very true. For instance, if you look at Belum Temanggung, the area is about 117,000 hectares. So if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. That's where not much can be done within these 4 years, just focusing on one. But for this 11 corridor. So time is a factor. We cannot explore everything. In fact, we have to have a lot of gradient research, different gradient research plots in order to better understand. And again, this goes back to the objective of the study on what we want to address. So the information the assignment that was given to us actually to gather all the information, focusing on this 11 corridor first. From there, I believe long-term monitoring can be implemented. So this is basically our research is just a kickstart. So from there, continuous monitoring for all these 11 prey-predator relationship, pollinators, even the gradient, the dispersal of the species, male-female ratio. These are the information that is actually needed from later monitoring. And I urge everyone, especially at the university level, let's work together and focus of all these at all these corridors. I'm sure there are a lot more discoveries that can be made from this research.
Okay, that's great. Now we have time for one more question before we move on to the photograph session.
Sure.
And the question is, how does non-mainstream landscape such as Semak Samun and empty lots, Kawasan Lalang, plays an important role for biodiversity in cities area? Do you think that these places are important for wildlife?
Oh, okay. Very interesting question. Yeah, this is also another way forward that we need to look into urbanization or urban biodiversity. In one of the target, if I'm not mistaken, in the target 8 or target 9, target 8 or target 7 in National Policy on Biodiversity, focusing on the urban or scrub or forest area or garden, and that's where actually you can see Kota Damansara Forest Reserve is used as one of the case study, and I think many more. Back in Sabah, we have community conserve areas and whatnot. Although these areas might serve different purposes or functions, however, information related to urban biodiversity, like if you can see in Kuala Lumpur, like Taman Tasik Titiwangsa, we have this lake garden, Taman Botani Kebangsaan, so these are the areas that actually possess some of beautiful species. Even for FRIM, it was planted forest back in early 1900, and now we have 233 species of birds. So with only 544 hectares, and surrounded with human settlement and also road networks. So you can see how actually that area, that scrub is being restored properly. And as one example, we have in our research station in Bido, it used to be extinct mining, and then when we rehab the area, we restore the area. Such beautiful information on biodiversity, especially on wildlife, is being restored. They came back. So that's where actually scrubs, although it's scrub, but better treatment need to be carried out, and that's where actually the campaign 100 million trees is being proposed. So that's where our efforts actually is open to all. Everyone need to do that. We need to contribute for that, for our green areas, for biodiversity, especially for wildlife, to come back to us.
Thank you for such a great answer, because ultimately Semak Samun and scrubs will undergo succession, right,
Yes.
Encik Shafiz?
Definitely, definitely.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you again to Encik Shafiz for spending time with us on this lovely evening to talk about important landscape conservation approaches for wildlife in Malaysia. And for those whose questions were unanswered, please, you can direct your questions to hello@mybis.gov.my. And now, before we get to the quiz section of today's webinar, let's first have our photograph session. So the organizers would highly appreciate participants to switch on their web cameras so we can commemorate today's webinar. The organizers will start taking the photographs once everyone is ready. So now I'll pass the screen to our photographer, Alia. So just be yourself and smile at the camera.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So please turn on your camera. There are 4 pages here, and I will start with the first page now. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Alright. Okay. Second page now. Please turn on your camera. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the third one. 1, 2, 3. Right, and last page. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. And back to you, Sarah.
Okay, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The photo taken will be shared on our official MyBIS page on Facebook. And if you haven't already liked our page on Facebook, now is the time to do so. Now, we've reached the quiz portion of our webinar. To those who are interested in winning attractive prizes, please click on the link shared in the chat box by the organizers. Remember to use your real name as the nickname for the Kahoot. The PIN number is also provided in the chat box. That will be soon shared by the organizers. So the top 3 winners will bring home a special prize in the form of a book, while the 4th and 5th winners will be given a special token. Okay, so the link for the Kahoot is shared in the chat box right now. So please make your way to the Kahoot. So if you prove to be within the top 5 at the end of the quiz, please send us an email at hello@mybis.gov.my so we can arrange for your prize to be sent to your homes. We're still waiting for more of you to join in on the fun. Kindly find the link and also PIN number in the chat box given by the organizers. So as you set up and join in on the fun, I'd like to take the time to thank you all for joining us today and also remind all participants that an e-cert of participation is provided as long as the survey form is filled at the end of our webinar. Okay, I see that names are slowly starting to fill in the Kahoot page.
Yeah.
So, Encik Shafiz, you've already seen the questions. What is the difficulty that you're giving this, your rating?
I think they are very good with all this. I'm sure they are trying to listen to listen to all the pointers that I give to them they give them today. So hopefully they can answer the question. It's not as hard as a public exam though.
Well,
just
the clue,
objective.
yes.
Yeah.
And the clue, ladies and gentlemen, is actually based on Encik Shafiz's presentation. So if you're keen on falling into the top 5 percentile, then yeah.
Yes, Sarah. I think everyone's here are very eager, and thanks for the question. For those that posted the question, and I'm sure a lot more. I'm so sorry also if I drag a lot, and I try my best to share, because talking about landscape or ecosystem approach is a very huge multidiscipline that involve so many parties and so many issues. That's where the first few, the first, I think, 10-20 slides talk about the how and why we need to do landscape approach, and that's the important part actually, because once we understand the concept, then that's where we need to implement such approach for conservation for wildlife in Malaysia.
Yes, definitely. And conservation is a team effort. It's multidisciplinary. Everybody needs to work together.
I agree. I am totally agree with you.
Okay, so I'll give another 1 minute for the remaining participants to join in for the Kahoot. And for those who are leaving, please fill in the survey form so that you can receive your e-cert. Yes, so the survey form for the e-cert is already shared in the chat box. So before you leave, and if you're keen on getting the e-cert, please answer the survey form. Okay, so our 1 minute is up. So it's time to start our quiz. Okay, let's begin. So the first question, which of these are the major forest complexes in the CFS of Peninsular Malaysia? This is an easy question for Encik Shafiz, of course, because he was involved with it. Okay, 10 more seconds to kunci jawapan, if I may.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, Sherry Wong is in the top. Now for the second question. CFS has how many ecological corridors consisting of how many primary linkages and how many secondary linkages? I'm thinking this is a hard one because people answering is taking some time.
It's not algebra though.
Luckily, it's not algebra actually. Okay, quite a number still got right.
Oh,
Yeah, and now Ida is on the top. Moving on to the next question. So secondary linkage caters mostly for birds and small mammals and applicable when the forest island is highly isolated. So in the urban setting, forest island it's like equates to green spaces.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay, yes. And to those who did not manage to get this one right, it's okay. There's other questions. And Ida is CYX is on the top now. Okay, it's getting more competitive. Moving on.
Kill me on the rock.
So Rank 1 ESA, which is environmentally sensitive area, includes protected areas and important habitats such as wildlife reserves, as well as national and state parks. Seems like an easy one.
I guess. Yep.
Okay.
Ida said her internet off. Sorry, Ida.
Oh no. It's okay. Moving forward to the last question we have. So, how many themes were identified under the KBA initiative? KBA meaning Key Biodiversity Areas. And that's all the questions we have for our quiz. Let's see who managed to bag top 5.
Wow.
Okay. Congratulations. What about the 4th? Okay, we have Muhammad and CYX. Okay, so congratulations to the top 5 winners, which is Kim Hawk, Ling CY, Ahmad, Muhammad, and CYX. please contact us at hello@mybis.gov.my with some information such as your phone number, address, and full name, so we can ensure your prize safely reaches your home. You can find this email given in the chat box by the organizers for ease of reference. So congratulations again. So regarding the e-cert of participation, kindly fill in the survey form given by the organizers in the chat box before you leave today's webinar. The e-cert will only be available for those who complete the survey form. Thank you so much for your cooperation. And with that marks the end of our webinar. We'd like to thank the organizers, the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, Forest Research Institute Malaysia, and Malaysia Biodiversity Information System, MyBIS, for arranging this webinar. And apart from that, Encik Shafiz for his time, knowledge, and wit with us today, and to all participants for joining us this lovely evening. We hope to see you again in our upcoming webinars and online events. Stay safe and take care. Assalamualaikum.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Have a nice rest of your Friday and happy weekend.
Yeah, happy weekend. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.